He is Jody Rainey, the principal at Homer Center High. It is the beginning of a school year. Our very first school visit of the new school year is with Principal Rainey. Our visit presented by Marcus and Mack, voted Best Law Firm and Best Personal Injury Lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. You can visit them online at marcusandmack.com. I know the beginning of a school year is always very, very busy. There are student reschedules. There are issues that come up, whether they be, something broken in a classroom or something not working correctly. But how has it gone? How smoothly has the start of the school year been for Homer Center?
For me in the high school thought, it's been fantastic. Actually, it's been probably one of the most smooth starts we've had since I've been here, and this is year 18. Like you said earlier, schedule changes and stuff like that, those are things that are challenging because you spend so much time in pre-scheduling, getting recommendations, getting requests from kids, ranking them, and then you build the schedule that they say they want, and then, it becomes challenging. So we look at extenuating circumstances, but we've kind of shut down schedule changes now. We had a couple, the second day especially, last Friday. But other than that, like I said, things have been gone pretty well. We have some punch list items yet from our big HVAC project and from over the summer, and seems to be both buildings. The high school definitely is functioning like as far as the HVAC. Like we got some punch list items. The elementary has nothing. I don't think that can't be handled, but there's some things that are going on with that creates some challenges in certain ways, but at the end of the day, it's things that, we're used to and accustomed to in education that, sometimes you just, you find a solution and you just go with it and you keep moving. So far though, I think it's been a great kickoff for us this year so far.
Well, I was going to ask about all of the construction that went on over the summer because there was a lot that happened at Homer Center, and they might not be things that are visible, but certainly you feel those changes. And sometimes there might be a box or two that you have to walk your way around in order to get everything cleaned up and absolutely perfect. But it sounds like everything was ready to go when the kids got there.
Yeah, you said Phil, Todd. I know I always meet with all the grade levels second day of school, and I asked them, I said, is there any rooms that are excessively hot? They're like, oh, my God, it's nice and cool. Cafeteria they thought was a little warm, but other than that, so when you say, Phil, it's definitely a lot more comfortable. Because you remember last year we went the whole year, like knowing this project was on the horizon, so but we got through last year, and like I said, I think it's been a good thing, and it also creates a much better classroom. But when you're comfortable in the classroom, and when you're, then I think that helps educationally as well. So so far so good. And like anything, always a little projects, but Matt Wilson, our maintenance guy, and Ralph Cesario, our superintendent, they are working always with the contractors that are still here doing the punch list items, but the hallways are cleaned up. The building, the maintenance staff and the custodial staff did a phenomenal job cleaning the buildings, getting the grounds looking good and stuff. So we're, I told you before, teachers have schedules, kids have schedules, we can have school, everything else we'll fill in the gaps as we go.
Yeah, that reminds me of something that was told me by another school administrator many years ago, who said that they had a student who was a really good student. They knew he was a really good student, but the learning wasn't happening as they began the year. And here they had family circumstances that had changed, and the child basically wasn't having enough. He wasn't nutrition. He was nutrition deficient. He hadn't been getting enough to eat and the right foods. And they sat him down and they talked with him, said, what's the problem that's going on with you this year? And he says, I'm just hungry constantly, and that's all I can think about. Making the student comfortable and putting the student in position to be educated can be a chore, but I know that you really work hard to make sure that whatever it is, that they're ready to sit down and at their optimum for getting an education.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, those basic needs need to be met, and I do say a lot of times that sometimes, unfortunately, the student's greatest need is not always the education. And I know that sounds crazy coming from an educator, but, if a student is hungry, and, maybe sometimes the only meal or, the hot meal they get of the day is the one we give them here. That's not a slam on anybody, but, Jim Price, was one of my mentors, and when I was at Purchase Line, he used to say that all the time. And the beauty of what we have at Homer Center, because we meet certain criteria and we have enough students participating in our breakfast and lunch programs, we're able to provide free breakfast and lunch for our students at our schools. That's huge, that, kids are getting breakfast and lunch, and a lot of our kids still pack, our kids eat at home and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, how convenient that is to get that energy in you, get that nutrition in you in the morning. You have a comfortable building, you have a clean building. Our security team does a great job. You have, you have a lot of safety procedures in place that aren't cumbersome to the kids, but they're also, things that are, known best practices that make the kids feel safe. Communication between the home. The value, Todd, like we live in a community, Indiana County, we have a lot of small school districts. A lot of people say, well, in the bigger schools, they offer this and offer this. But I think the one thing that a small school does, it's a lot harder to fall through a crack in a small school. Not only do we know these kids as students, we know these kids as people. We have open and good relationships and communications with the families. We're able to work partnerships, and we're able to service the whole student. And I think that's the thing is, I think I'm a big believer, maybe people disagree with me, is, I think establishing that relationship and I know personally, if I feel like I'm seen as a person, and, my needs and are being met, or things that are bothering me, I'm able to discuss or handle outside of the work environment, I'm going to be a much more productive employee. Yeah. And it's no different. You're going to be a much more productive student if you know that things going on outside of the school also matter to us, and we're going to be a support system for that, and still work the education and also work the things and help you with the needs that you have beyond education. And I think once you do that, I think the relationships I can tell you, Homer Center High School, the relationships between our students and our staff is what makes this school go. 100%.
Yeah. Well, within the Homer Center education experience this year, I know that there's been a great effort over the last 4 or 5 years to have initiatives like soft skills, developing of soft skills, things such as treating each other with respect, and throughout the school district, there's been an extra emphasis on that and being kind to one another. Are there things that kids are doing this year that might be a little different, or that are new initiatives that are going to help them not only in the classroom but in life overall?
I think what you're talking about in the elementary is what they call their ROAR program. It's a positive behavioral support program. Mm-hmm. Elementary does a phenomenal job with that. Mrs. Genscher was one of the people that helped initiate that. I don't know if she was in special ed or the assistant principal at the time. That program went from being new to in 2 years we're presenting at conferences. That's how successful they were with that implementation. That still continues. It's kind of embedded in them, and it really emphasizes, character traits that are important for success. And then as they come into the high school, I think when you're saying about soft skills, one of the big initiatives that we have is Indiana County Ready, with a partnership through the Chamber of Commerce. And so with Indiana County Ready, what happens there is teachers kind of rank students in different categories of those soft skills, like, being prompt, qualities of work, those different things that make you a productive employee. And so they will get a certificate at the end of the year, basically, certification that they're Indiana County Ready, which tells any employer, hey, these students displayed these skill sets. I remember being at a career meeting one time, and that we were talking about skills that students lack, and I was kind of curious what they meant, and they were meaning the soft skills. And so things like attendance, is it a big shock that if a kid missed 36 days of school in a year, that if you hire them, they're going to miss a lot of work. I mean, I think you can show correlations to that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, someone who misses only 2 or 3 days of school a year is probably going to show up to work, and I do believe half the battle in life is you show up.
Yeah.
If you have Chuck Noll used to say, you can't make the club if you're in the tub, so, you can't make the team if you're not at practice, and so, but I do think those things do continue. And I do think too, it's really a good partnership with the homes because, I'm not trying to tell kids what to learn. I'm trying to help them how to learn. And we're trying to reinforce the things that I'm positive that their parents are trying to instill in them at home. We're just trying to be an extra part and support in that. And, those are great things you just mentioned, Todd, though, that the positive behavioral support program still runs in the elementary, and Indiana County Ready and those types of initiatives are occurring in our high school, and they just continue to improve each year.
Yeah, and to see the way that works in the elementary school, of course, that is going to stay with those kids as they move on into the high school, and that's just going to seep upwards, I guess, is what's going to happen.
We do see, honestly, Todd, you bring it up, we do see that impact with our new 7th graders. I mean, it's a transition for them, but like I said, is just getting, if they have those types of, soft skills in them, it definitely makes that transition and then their growth throughout their high school years much, much better.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Heritage Conference getting underway with football last week. Of course, golf has been going. Volleyball seasons are now underway. Everything going smoothly with the Heritage Conference?
Yeah, so far so good, I believe. The Wildcats got a win last week in football. We had a tough match. We played well, but we fell short against Northern Cambria last night. But everybody's off to a great start, and got to give a lot of shout out to Colin Stokes. I mean, he does a lot of the background stuff and behind the scenes stuff for the conference as our secretary and our treasurer. Colin's very active and forward thinking, so shout out to him. But everything seems to be off to the right start, and so we're just looking for a continuation of great things for our students in the Heritage Conference.
It's a good thing. All right, Jody Rainey, thanks so much for kicking off the school year with us here on Indiana in the Morning. Appreciate it.
Hey, Todd, I want to say I'm honored that we were first, but we both know it's just because it was the way the schedule unfolded.
Well, you can still be honored, right?
Yes, I am honored. I'm always honored when I get to talk to you, Todd. That's for sure.
I appreciate that a whole lot. Thanks, Jody. Have a great day.
You too, Todd. Thanks.
Jody Rainey, the principal of Homer Center High School.